morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Nancy, Brian, Kelly, in for Greg Bach, who is still under the weather, and Calvin Butenhoff, coming to you live from our studio in downtown Waukesha.
Good morning, Jane.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to do so, and I hope Greg is not listening, and I hope he's asleep.
I'm pretty sure he is.
He better be.
Yeah, do you want me to text him and see?
Yeah, we should text him. Hey, man, are you asleep?
Are you resting? Let's make. We were just wanting to make sure you were getting.
Just want to make sure that you're resting.
Exactly.
Emergency.
We have a very, very busy show coming up today. Coming up at 10:30, we're going to be joined by Jeff Mandel from Law Forward to talk, among many other things, about Josh Kaul, Wisconsin's Attorney General, yesterday filing charges against 3 of the lawyers and 1 advisor involved with the attempt for the Green Bay sweep.
It's about time.
Yeah, as it were. And they also are involved in a couple of other things. Shockingly, there are more efforts by some to continue to make it more difficult to vote absentee and all of those things. And you just kind of get the feeling that they don't want people voting.
They don't want any service members to vote for sure.
Yeah, right. So we're going to talk about that coming up at 10:33. At 11:33, Dr. Laura Hanks will be here for public service announcement, as she always is. It's Pride Month. Dr. Hanks does a fair amount of work with the trans community, and she's going to have a medical student with her, Brittany, to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to also talk about a potential ban on contraception in the United States, which seems to be problematic.
If you don't believe in it, don't do it. It's not that hard, but making other people do it.
Also, want to remind you, next hour, you want to be listening for the word of the hour, because our Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest is underway. You do need to download the Civic Media app.
Oh, no.
It's very easy.
Not a couple seconds of my day.
It is a couple seconds of your day.
Okay.
Go to wherever you get your apps and search for Civic Media, CIVIC.
We have a beautiful, bold logo there.
We really do.
Mhm.
It's very nice. So download the Civic Media app, and then that gives you the ability to call and text any station all across the state, any show. You can listen, you can call and text directly from the app. So next hour, when we give you the word, you want to text it to the app, through the app rather, so you can be entered to win some of these really great prizes. Every hour that we play this, so we play it at 7, 9, 11, 1, 3, 5, and 7 o'clock. Every hour, somebody picks up a Wisconsin Dells Summer Prize Pack.
Oh, my.
Every day, one person picks up a pair of Milwaukee Brewers club level seats. You've used those seats.
Those are amazing seats.
They're good seats,
If you
aren't
have
they?
any chance to go see it, go do it.
And then there's going to be 2 grand prize winners who get to choose where they want to have their staycation, either in Fort Atkinson. That place has a pontoon boat.
Oh.
I know. Lake Geneva and in Door County. And regardless of whether you win one of the daily prizes or an hourly prize, everybody is entered to win the grand prizes.
That's fantastic.
I know. It's pretty cool. And so every hour that we play, yes, you can enter every hour that we play, only once an hour. Again, 7, 9, 11, 1, 3, 5, and 7 o'clock. And there's a different word every hour.
Yep.
And another way you can get like bonus entries. So when you do text in the word, you will get a confirmation text back.
And it will have a link on there.
Yes, it will. And if you follow that link, and all it asks you to do is to check on your voter status, right?
That's it.
That's it. We just want to make sure that you're registered to vote.
Yeah, that's it. I honestly don't care who you vote for either.
No, we just want people involved in the democratic process.
I would rather have everybody registered and everybody vote. That way we get a more, accurate result and a better picture of what the people want.
But if you do that, then you also get like an extra entry.
That's pretty cool too.
I know. And we have this kind of low-level competition going on with our friend and colleague, Todd Alba, who's on from noon to 2. He smoked us on Monday.
He's a very nice man.
He's a wonderful man.
But I don't want Madison to hold that
distinction.
Yeah, no.
Well, he smoked us on Monday. Yesterday, we had one more entry than he did.
That's good.
I know.
That's all it takes is one more, and then you win.
So it's a start.
Take it from other winners. They found, like the Republicans, who understand that 50 plus 1 equals winning. So if you get the plus 1, you've won.
It just gives you an extra entry.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
So, again, be listening right after the 11 o'clock news at 11:06. We will have the word of the hour for our Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest. That's coming up at 11:06. Going to start off with where we kind of started yesterday. Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Gall filed felony forgery charges against 2 attorneys and the aide who helped submit paperwork falsely saying that Donald Trump had won in 2020. The state charges are the first to come in Wisconsin after other separate charges were brought in Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, and Georgia. What jumped out at me yesterday, I was on what used to be Twitter, as I frequently am, and Wisconsin's very own senior U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, of course, weighing in on this decision by Attorney General Josh Gall to file
Brilliant
these.
legal mind that he is.
He is. On Twitter yesterday, Ron Johnson said, "This is outrageous.
Uh-huh.
Now Democrats are weaponizing Wisconsin's judiciary."
Uh-huh.
Here's the money line. Apparently, conservative lawyers advising clients is illegal under Democrat tyranny. Dun, dun, dun.
That sounds really dramatic.
What I take away from this, and I'm not a lawyer, we're kind of lawyer adjacent.
Yeah.
Maggie is a lawyer.
And Jim Santel
Jim
is a lawyer.
Santel is a lawyer.
We have a lot of resources available.
We
to
do. It is my understanding that an attorney cannot advise their clients to break the law.
That's literally the basis of being an attorney.
You can't do that.
That's why you're a counsel. That's why you have legal counsel, so that they can advise you not to break the law and what the law is. In fact, that's why we have this system of passing the bar, so that you can know what is legal and what is illegal and show it proficiently enough to be able to represent other people in legal matters. That is the definition of being a lawyer. And so if you give somebody advice like Jim Trupis, like Mike Roman, and like Kenneth Chesbrough did, that is illegal. And in fact, grounds for disbarment. That is not anything to do with whether I think Trump won the election or did not. It has nothing to do with any sort of politics whatsoever. It's literally the definition of being an attorney. And what they advised to do was to break the law.
And they're not supposed to do that.
They're not supposed to do that. That's it.
Yeah.
And again, I don't understand how this wasn't like, I've met Josh Gall several times, and when the Devils were interviewing him, and when he was running and everything, and then this fake electors happen, and other people are charging it, and I've seen him, and I'm like,
hello, what are you doing, dude?
And
any day now would be nice.
Now man.
But it finally came.
Finally, it happened.
It finally came.
A lot of Metamucil, but it came out.
If you would like to join the conversation, 855-752-4842, 855-75 or leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Elon continues to actively ruin. We would love to hear from you. I shouldn't get as much pleasure out of this as I do. But again, Ron Johnson saying after Josh Gall issuing these felony charges, Democrats weaponizing Wisconsin's judiciary, apparently conservative lawyers advising clients is illegal under Democrat tyranny. No, Ron, you just can't tell them to break the law when you're advising them.
It's funny that they'll talk about weaponizing the law once they lost the majority in the Supreme Court. Because they had no problems doing things like...
You mean the Wisconsin Supreme Court?
Yes, the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Yeah.
The Wisconsin Supreme Court...
Everything was good.
It was totally fine with the... They were so mad at Hagedorn for thinking about, the law. And, Hagedorn surprised me. He's a religious zealot, and I thought he was going to be super far right. Yep. The guy actually looked in the mirror and said, God, I'm here to do the law, and the law says this. So he actually did the thing that he's supposed to do. And all the conservatives are so mad at Hagedorn for being, judicial.
Yeah, he's surprised me on several occasions, actually.
But up until then, all it was is just partisan hackery. They had Michael Gableman, for sake, in there as if he's going to do it. Like they would bring cases that just everyone should have recused on them. The Scott Walker broke campaign finance laws, and they basically just said, squash it, bury it, get away.
Make it go away.
Supreme Court
made it
go away. Mm-hmm. And then Ron Johnson has the audacity to talk about weaponizing the Supreme Court. Do not get me started or the rest of the people. We don't have enough time on this show to go through the weaponization of the right in the Wisconsin Supreme Court alone.
Calvin, we have a little clip from Wisconsin's senior senator, do we not? He was being asked about his participation in trying to get this list of false electors to the vice president. And of course, he didn't have anything to do with it. Calvin hit that clip.
I was not involved in this at all.
Well, it was okay. Then it became, well, I only touched it for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I didn't know, but if I did know, then I didn't know. But what it was that I did not know.
Yeah.
So do you not know what's going on in the business? Is the person handling your business doing stuff that you don't know about? Well, maybe you should get your house in order, Ron Johnson, if you don't know what's going on or what files are being presented to you.
I also think that folks should remember, especially if you decide to be an attorney, you can get disbarred. Just talk to Jenna Ellis.
Uh-huh.
She's lost her law license.
And what did Jenna
Eastman, has Eastman lost his law license yet?
And
I think didn't
I can't say that off the head.
And Rudy Giuliani, I believe.
Rudy Giuliani is facing it in several different areas because you can pass the bar in several different states.
True.
So I'm presuming he's just going one by one and getting them just knocked out. But I wouldn't. He has a hard time holding it together.
You think?
Yes, I wouldn't hire Rudy Giuliani to do a lot of things. May have done some really cool things with RICO laws in the past, but
that's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. Now he can't even remember. I'm not an expert on the facts yet, but I'm getting there. You're supposed to be the expert on the facts. You're advising the president. Maybe you should know what you're talking about.
855-752-4842. If you want to join us, 855-75-CIVIC. When we return, oopsies for the RNC. Oh, I can totally see how that confusion happened. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is coming to you across the vast Civic Media radio network. Back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Brian Kelly in for Greg Bach, who's still under the weather, and Sweet Cal B on the board. Coming to you live from our studio in downtown Waukesha, where you can always join us. You can call, you can text at 855-752-4842, or leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Jeff Mandel from Law Forward joining us after the 10:30 news, going to talk about Josh Call yesterday issuing felony charges against two lawyers, and a campaign aide for their role in trying to get the fake electors from Wisconsin to Vice President Mike Pence. So we will be talking about that, along with a couple of other things that are on the radar with Law Forward. So stick around for that, rather. And also, if you have a smart speaker, which I do not, but I know many people do. If you have a smart speaker, you can always just say, play WAUK.
Hey, Alexa,
Hey, Alexa.
play WAUK.
Or, hey, Alexa, play WISS.
Yeah.
Those all work.
And they might be working for you now.
Even inadvertently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just make sure it doesn't order cords of wood for you.
Can she do that?
It happened overhearing a conversation in another room. Someone got a whole bunch
Cord
of wood.
Oh, man.
Let's send it to them.
All right. Headline that we're jumping off of here. A Republican Party uses picture of Ho Chi Minh City for a GOP convention in Milwaukee. Yes, the RNC, the Republican National Committee, has a website now for the convention, which is coming up in July. And Boston Globe reporter Sam Brody was looking for information on the website, and he noticed that the skyline did not look like it was the skyline of Milwaukee. So he posted on Twitter about it and took a screenshot, and in about 30 minutes, they took it down.
Oh,
But
so
of
they
course,
are aware of their own website.
they are aware of their own website.
Oh, very nice.
Apparently just not what's on their own website.
Okay. So I'm trying to decide whether this is just incompetence or they're trying to say something about the socialist past of Milwaukee inadvertently.
Oh, do you really think they're that deep?
I'm kind of trying to hope that they are. I mean, really, it's just how do you not just send one of your peons out to take a picture and upload it? Oh, wait, I'm not sure that they have one, the ability to do that, but two, I'm not sure they have enough peons.
Well, they don't have any campaign offices set up yet, from what I understand. They might have offices, but I don't know that they're staffed right now. Because the RNC is having big money problems.
Oh, good. I wonder why.
And that's such an interesting question.
So I feel like the campaign finances for the RNC were taken over by someone named
It would be that would be Lara Trump, his daughter-in-law.
Lara Trump.
Yeah,
That sounds very similar to
Mhm.
another president I've heard.
It does.
Wow. So they seem to have not good money flow unless they're going to. So basically, the only way the RNC is going to get money is if they roll out a red carpet and make it a Donald Trump festival. If they don't, they're not going to get any money. That's kind of how it's going to work.
Yeah, pretty much. But I just find it, like you said, Brian, you can do a Google search for the skyline of Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure the first thing to come up is not going to be Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah, you don't even have to hire anyone to do it. You could do it yourself. I could walk you through it give me a call. I'll walk you through it. It'd take maybe 5 minutes.
According to this Boston Globe reporter, the page now does have an image of the host city of Milwaukee, not Ho Chi Minh City. But of course, they did take a screenshot of it, so now it will live forever. Ho Chi Minh City is a population of over 9 million people with more than 24 high-rise buildings.
That's larger than Chicago.
Yeah. Milwaukee, home to about 563,000 people, has under a dozen high-rises. But, it's just all the best people. Trump said that from the he would surround himself with all.
How does it happen not on purpose?
All the best people.
How does that happen not on purpose?
To have the wrong
Did
picture?
you just type in skyline?
And I like this one better.
I like this skyline. And in your mind, you said Milwaukee, so you thought it was fine? How do you mess up that search so hard?
All the best people, Brian.
I don't get, this is going to bother me. It's going to sit in my head. And I'm going to sit there and I'll be up in the middle of the night. How did that happen?
How did it happen? How did
I
you do
have
that?
to know how it actually happened. I need to know the actual story.
Well, let's not forget that when Bill O'Reilly was still on Fox News and they were covering the protests in Madison that were happening in February, and they showed some footage that showed how violent the protesters were being, and there were palm trees in the background.
What?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the Madison palm trees.
The famous
Way.
Madison palm tree. Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right by the Capitol. Right by the Capitol.
That's why you got them in the background.
David from San Francisco is on the line. Good morning, David. Thank you so much for joining us. What did you want to say?
Oh, yeah. Well, it crossed my mind. If you remember, Donald Trump basically was having rallies all over the country. I remember it especially during COVID, but probably before. where he would hire a big amphitheater, he would hire various things, and he would never pay them. So the cities all across America were getting stiffed.
Yep.
And especially red cities. I don't remember, was it Tulsa down in Oklahoma where is that where oh good grief, who was the pizza guy that
Yeah, I know
died of
exactly.
COVID?
Yep, where he got COVID and then he died.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that city got stiffed. They hired a big amphitheater. They violated their own rules. That was during COVID, of course, and they had a 6-foot distance rule. The city mandated it, and there were photographs of the Trump staffers taking out the signs about the 6-foot rule. And so you would think that it would have set them up for a huge lawsuit for violating the health and safety laws. But so if Milwaukee is inviting this jerk in, and they're going to get stiffed, who's in charge in Milwaukee that's allowing somebody who, a notorious grifter is coming to town, and as if the city is encouraging it.
Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate the call, David from San Francisco, joining us. I don't disagree with you, but I also believe that this happens on both sides to some extent. And we can ask Todd Alba about this because he's been in politics. But I think both Democratic campaigns and Republican campaigns have a tendency not to pay all of their bills.
Well, the thing is with all the campaigns is that they're only there for a short time. They're basically set up businesses for just maybe a year or two.
It's like
and
a pop-up.
They pop up for a little bit and then they go away. So once they're gone away, they're like, well, we don't really exist anymore. So
Who are you going to get the money from?
And besides, we have a whole bunch of legal fees we have to use our campaign finances for.
And that's where that money is going to be going.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Stay close. News is coming up next. And don't forget, next hour, our Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest will give you the word you need to text in via the Civic Media app right after the 11 o'clock news. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Love is a holiday. 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 Yes, yes, yes. Love is a holiday. Love is a holiday. Love is a holiday.
hear me all right?
I can.
All right, awesome. You're sounding good. We'll be all set to go in 2 minutes.
Perfect.
Good morning, and welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Brian Kelly in for the ailing Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenhoff. We are coming to you live from our studio in downtown Waukesha, where you can always join the conversation. You can call and text at the same number, 855-752-4842, or leave a comment on the live stream if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or what used to be Twitter. What are you laughing about?
I'm laughing because like Law and Order SVU is played like 24/7 all the time. I used to feed my daughter. She'd feed for like literally the amount of time that was one episode, to the point where like when that came on, she'd look up at the TV. Like she has a Pavlov response. But I laugh because at that moment of the do 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 do, that's when the word molestation goes across the screen. And I'm like, pretty much 24/7, and anyone can turn on the TV and see the word molestation go across the screen.
Law and Order SVU.
SV.
All right.
That's why I was laughing.
We are very happy to be joined by our guest from Law Forward. Jeff Mandel is here. Good morning, Jeff. Thank you so much for making time to join us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul yesterday filing felony charges against Jim Trupus, Ken Chesbro, and also Mike Roman, who was a campaign aide, for essentially committing felony fraud in submitting this slate of fake electors. We were laughing before you joined us, Jeff, about Wisconsin Senior Senator Ron Johnson saying that this is terrible and this now, the Democrats are completely overdoing the rule of law. They're weaponizing Wisconsin judiciary. Conservative lawyers advising a client is apparently illegal under Democrat tyranny. I'm not a lawyer. Brian's not a lawyer. We're pretty sure, even as non-lawyers, lawyers don't get to tell their clients to break the law. Is that accurate?
That's exactly right. Lawyers do not get to get a free pass if they advise clients to do things that are fraudulent. And here, it's far more than that, because what we showed through litigation over the last 2 years is that it's not just that you had lawyers in Wisconsin advising the Wisconsin fraudulent electors to submit these fake papers, but the entire scheme started here in Wisconsin. It happened in 7 states across the country, but it began here, and it wouldn't have happened anywhere else if it hadn't begun here. And we've laid all of this out with all of the documents and the key pieces on a clear, easy to read timeline, which is at our website, lawforward.org.
We will put a link to that in our show notes after the show is over. Calvin will get that up, and we'll include the link if anybody wants to follow that up and look at it in detail.
You should.
You really should, because again, there's going to be all these false claims about lawyers can't advise their clients because Democrats are tyrants, and that just isn't accurate. It's just not.
It's not accurate at all, and it's a pretty amazing story. One of the challenges is that when we brought our civil lawsuit in 2022, there isn't a specific civil statute that says you can't do this, because no one had ever thought to do something this audacious. No one had ever thought to try to steal a presidential election in this way. And we then had to come up with analogies, essentially, to other kinds of wrongdoing that the legislature had thought to make illegal, so that we could explain to a court exactly what happened. But everyone who looks carefully at this story, everyone who understands that you've got 10 people who decided that they knew better than 3.3 million of their neighbors, and that they were just going to change the results of Wisconsin's election and thereby try to change the results of the entire national presidential election. It's really outrageous. It's almost the stuff of fiction. And it's really great to see that finally we're seeing some accountability here in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is the last state of the states where this happened to step up and bring criminal charges.
Which is so interesting because, as you pointed out, Jeff, that this is where the whole scheme started. And it was called the Green Bay Sweep, right?
There are places where they've called it that. It began here. The architects of this were here. And again, if you look at this timeline that we've posted on our website, you can see specifically the emails. The memos were written for Wisconsin and then sent to Washington and to the Trump campaign saying, hey, this is what we want to do. And by the way, if we do it here, you can do it in other states.
Now, here's a question for you, and it's about wording. What I understand is that when they were putting these together, Cheesebro advised that we say, in the case of Trump winning, in the language of what they were writing up, which they left out. But there's emails and I believe text to the evidence that they were advising to say if Trump won, because if they did that, that would make this process legal. But by saying these are the actual electors,
that's where the fraud came in.
That's where the fraud came in. And that also speaks to intent and knowledge that they are doing something illegal. Is that, am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah, you're on the right path. Let's not give Mr. Chesbrough more credit than he deserves. But so here's what happened. There were 7 states in the United States where there were these alternate or fraudulent certificates turned in. In 2 of those states, in Pennsylvania and in New Mexico, the papers had sort of a caveat that said, well, we're not the duly elected presidential electors, but if a court says we are, then you should know this is how we would vote. And in 5 states, including Wisconsin, there was no such language. And I agree with you that that's what makes it fraudulent. I think that with a caveat, it becomes sort of unwise and a little bit reckless if there's no reason to think a court is going to change the results. But I can understand it. What happened with Chesbrough and why he and his lawyers like to say that he advised that that be true everywhere is this did not initiate with Chesbrough or the lawyers. Mr. Chesbrough prepared the papers for the electors to sign in all 7 states. In Pennsylvania, the electors themselves pushed back and said, hey, we're not going to do this. We're very concerned that our state attorney general, who's now their state governor, Josh Shapiro, will go after us if we do this. So we're going to add this language that says we're not really the electors. Chesbrough then sort of very gently suggests to a Trump campaign attorney, Mike Roman, who was also charged yesterday here in Wisconsin, hey, this isn't a terrible idea. Maybe we should consider adding this to all of the states. And Roman immediately and firmly shuts that down.
Yep.
He says no, and then he actually at one point says "fuck those guys." Um, and that's in yesterday's criminal complaint. The text message exchange with those with exactly that language is in the documents that the Attorney General filed yesterday here in Wisconsin. And Chesbrough did not bring it up again. So I wouldn't say that he advised that was the right way to do it. He sort of floated the idea when it was shut down. He said, "Oh, okay, then we'll do it the way that I had already written all of these papers." And he was here in Wisconsin, in the room where the 10 fraudulent electors met in Wisconsin. He
Yes.
actually videotaped the whole thing. And
Yes.
the video is also on our website.
Jeff Mandel is here from Law Forward, and we're talking about Attorney General Josh Kaul's decision to charge Kenneth Chesbrough and Jim Trupis, along with campaign aide Mike Roman, for committing felonies, essentially, with the whole fake elector scheme. What I find so interesting, too, Jeff, Anderson Cooper had Andrew Hitt on, who was among the fake electors, talking about this. Andrew Hitt said, "We got specific advice from our lawyers. These documents were meaningless unless a court said they had meaning." Cooper says, "So you're deciding to sign this document and getting the other electors to sign this based on a court challenge you yourself don't believe has legitimacy." Hitt says, "I wouldn't say it doesn't have legitimacy. That's different than not personally agreeing with it." And essentially, Andrew Hitt says, "I did it because if the court did agree that Trump won, then I would have been solely responsible for the fact that he lost Wisconsin."
Look, I don't know exactly who Mr. Hitt's talking about when he talks about the advice from his lawyers, because Mr. Trupis and Mr. Chesbrough were not his lawyers. They were the campaign's lawyers. And Mr. Hitt at the time was the head of the Republican Party of Wisconsin, and he could be talking about the Republican Party's lawyers. He could be talking about campaign lawyers. But we have seen through the discovery process in our litigation against the 10 fraudulent electors and Mr. Trupis and Mr. Chesbrough, we have seen email correspondence, we have seen text messages. All of that material is we've made all that material publicly available. It's all on our website. And I don't think that you will find exactly what Mr. Hitt is describing. Ultimately, he led this meeting. He encouraged he himself and he encouraged the other 9 to sign these papers that said, "We are the duly elected presidential electors for the state of Wisconsin," when they knew that wasn't true. And even an hour before they signed those papers, the Wisconsin Supreme Court had issued a final binding decision that said that Biden won the election. As part of our settlement with them, they have acknowledged that Biden won the election and that these papers were wrongly used. And it's Mr. Hitt personally who signed off on them being sent to Washington later in that week. So, I don't want to get in a dispute about what he did say to Anderson Cooper, but it doesn't seem to me to line up with the documents.
And to that point, I want to hit home again. 10 people plus a couple folks nationwide decided that your vote, no matter where it lied, did not matter. We're going to do this. Can you speak to the arrogance within discovery, within evidence, just the arrogance behind this scheme, the thought that it does not matter what anybody in this state thought, it does not matter who won, we're going to do this. That there's a certain arrogance of, we are these better people and we know better for the country. And can you speak to that in the discovery process, in finding evidence and the language that these people used?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's what's most striking. In 2020, as I said earlier, nearly 3.3 million people voted in Wisconsin. That's an all-time record turnout for the state of Wisconsin. And the idea that these 10 people just decided that it didn't matter what the will of the people was, what most of their neighbors thought, is truly shocking, because what we believe here in America and the way our democracy works is that the majority rules. What I would say in response to your question about the discovery specifically is, what is most shocking and galling about this is actually that there's no discussion about that in the in the emails or in the text messages. There's no recognition about the sweeping assumptions, and it really is just bald arrogance that these people were displaying, and they don't even talk about it.
Wow.
That's
It is a stunning level of confidence, I guess, and again, arrogance that yeah, we know best and we know how this should go, and so we throw out because it would have been like 200,000 votes, wouldn't it, Jeff?
Well, I mean, what they were really trying to say is it doesn't matter. They would have been overriding the will of the 3.3 million, the nearly 3.3 million Wisconsinites who voted, because the way our system works, right, is we think that when you go into into the election day and you cast your vote, you're really voting for one of the candidates for president, but you're not. You are voting for the slate of electors who are
Right.
pledged to support that candidate, and whose votes will actually be counted on behalf of the state when Congress meets to elect to count the electoral votes. And the other piece that we haven't talked about this morning is all of this is tied directly to the insurrection on January 6th. Because that insurrection, as people were roaming the halls and shouting, "Hang Mike Pence," they
Yep.
were angry at then Vice President Pence because they wanted him to do something. And what was that something? What they wanted him to do was to count these fraudulent votes from these 7 states, including Wisconsin. And he was not willing to do so. And that's why they were so angry. So without these votes, without these fraudulent certificates, there never would have been an insurrection. What you would have had was a perfectly appropriate protest outside the Capitol of people who were unhappy about the election results and then would have gone home and organized harder for the next election to elect their candidate.
We're going to keep our discussion going with Jeff Mandel from Law Forward. You can always join us if you want to call or text at 855-752-4842. Our statewide text to win, Scotty Summer. The word coming up after the 11 o'clock news. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning and welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Fancy Brian Kelly in for Greg Bach and Calvin on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can always join us. Call or text, same number, 855-752-4842, or you can leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Elon continues to actively ruin. We did have a comment from Sherry. We were talking about the Republicans essentially deciding, yeah, we won the election and we're going to throw out all these votes. And we just decided that we won. Sherry says, I guess that means I win the summer contest then, because she decided that she did.
Oh, yeah.
Just
And
like the Republicans. And you're,
I-
yep, Sherry, I guess you did.
Sherry, what I would do is ruin the entire contest for everyone by filing a lawsuit and making sure that,
No one else can enter?
no one else can enter, or that all the other people's entries are invalid based on your feelings.
That's excellent idea.
Mhm.
Jeff, you guys will take that on at Law Forward, right? You are involved in a couple of other things, though, that we wanted to get to in the 7 or 8 minutes we have left. Talk about the Brown case.
Sure. So there is, as you and your listeners probably are aware, a concerted effort in this state to use litigation to make it harder for people to vote, and harder for people to participate in elections, which are just the foundation of our democracy. And so, Law Forward, on behalf of a variety of clients, is standing up and fighting back against these. The Brown case is out of Racine County. It is now pending at the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And this is a case, it's an effort to make it harder for people to participate in what the law calls in-person absentee voting, but most of us think of as early voting, when you can go and vote before Election Day in person somewhere. There was a lawsuit almost a decade ago. The legislature had made it so that in each municipality in the state of Wisconsin, whether that's a tiny little township that only has 40 or 50 people, or it's the city of Milwaukee with hundreds of thousands of residents, that in each municipality there could be only one early voting location. And a federal court said, no, that's unconstitutional, and violates a number of laws, and you can't do that. And the legislature agreed with that and actually passed a specific statutory provision that says you can have as many early voting sites in your municipality as you would like. But the Brown case is an effort to really backdoor municipalities only being able to have one site, saying, well, it still says in the statutes it has to be as close to the clerk's office as possible. So unless all of your locations are across the street from the clerk's office, then you can't do this. It's pretty ridiculous. The judge in Racine rejected a number of the arguments. It did accept one about sort of political party advantage, and we're up in the Wisconsin Supreme Court with others trying to get that knocked down. And we filed our opening brief in the court just on Monday, and I'm confident that case will work out.
Jeff, what is their complaint? Like, if I get
too many people are voting early.
Like, if I get my arm broken by someone, I go, "You broke my arm. I'm bringing litigation against you." What was the harm done here? What is happening? What is the problem?
Well, that's actually, a really important question, and it's underlying a number of these cases. And I'm hoping that the Wisconsin Supreme Court is going to use the Brown case to give some clarity, because it is one thing, as you say, if your municipal clerk administers elections in a way that makes it harder for you to vote in a violation of the election law, then you have been injured, and you should be able to go to court and get the election law clarified. But if, by contrast, what it is you simply don't like the way that someone else is voting, you have not been injured. You yourself still got to vote in the way you wanted to. And what we're seeing in these cases all over the state over the last few years is individuals standing up and saying, I'm bringing a lawsuit because I don't like how other people vote. And I don't believe that those cases belong in court. And we are that is one of the main issues before the Supreme Court in this Brown case, because Mr. Brown was not injured here.
But you're right. That is the logic of it. Is I was not injured. I got to vote, but my guy lost. Right.
Correct. And that's not an actual claim that you should be able to bring in court.
The folks that do this are the same folks that the second that anything is brought up about the courts go, all these frivolous lawsuits in the courts, all the red tape and frivolous lawsuits. And literally, this is the most frivolous. I don't like it, so I'm litigating.
But, that's exactly what happened in the Tigan case 2 years ago that got rid of drop boxes in Wisconsin. We took deposition testimony from the two plaintiffs, Mr. Tigan and Mr. Tom. Neither one of them had ever used a drop box. Neither one of them had ever voted absentee. Neither one of them really knew much about this. And there's no way in which they were actually being harmed. And so hopefully as I said, there are a number of cases where this issue is lurking, but hopefully the Brown case is one where the Supreme Court will clearly state what basic level of harm allows someone to bring a lawsuit about election administration and what doesn't, because we're seeing a lot of these nonsense lawsuits around the state brought by people who have not suffered any problem at all.
Jeff Mandel is our guest from Law Forward, talking about all kinds of things going on in Wisconsin regarding making it essentially harder for people to vote. I don't know if you saw this, Jeff, and we didn't have a chance to talk about this before we got on the air, but Urban Milwaukee has a big article, too, about lawsuit complicates absentee voting in Wisconsin, asking a Marinette County Circuit Court judge to require voters who get their ballot through My Vote to return a signed copy of the request with the actual absentee ballot. And again, this is just more, to me, trying to muck up the process, slow down the process, do things just based on semantics and little words to make it harder for people to vote.
I think that's exactly right. And there, on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin and Disability Rights Wisconsin, we have intervened in that case. Again, you've got a plaintiff who has not been prevented from voting, who has not suffered any harm, who's simply trying to make it harder for other people to vote. That case too, like these others, will work its way through the system, and we're there standing up for the rights of people to vote. If I could, Jane, I'd like to end with one piece of good news though about voting.
Yes,
Um,
please.
and that is this, we fought for years against the rigged maps in this state, and we have fair maps for the 2024 election for the first time in basically a decade and a half. And just this week, we saw on Monday was the deadline for candidates who want to run for office to file nomination papers with the Wisconsin Elections Commission. And what we saw that's great is a record number for at least for recent years. There are more contested districts, there are more candidates, there are going to be more real elections, and that's what fair maps are about. It's not about advantaging one party or the other. It's about making sure the people get to choose, and that's going well.
Jeff Mandel from Law Forward, thank you so very much, Jeff. I know we will be reaching out again. I hope you can join us in a month or so and keep us updated on all these shenanigans going on in Wisconsin.
Thank you
Stay
so much.
close. News is next. And when we return, the word of the hour for our Scotty Summer Text to Win contest. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. morning. Welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Nancy Brian Kelly in for Greg Bach, who's still under the weather. Calvin Butenhoff coming to you live from our studio in downtown Waukesha. I hope you have downloaded the Civic Media app. Wherever you get your app stores, it's absolutely free, and it allows you to call and text directly from the app to whatever show you're listening to across the state, no matter where you are. And this is important because
Get
it is
ready.
our Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest. This is really pretty cool, you guys.
Wah,
Every
wah, wah, wah.
every hour, one person will win a Wisconsin Dells Summer prize pack. Every day, one person picks up a pair of Milwaukee Brewers club level seats. You have used those tickets.
They're so good. They're right behind home plate. You
Ooh.
also have, it's club level, so it's completely covered. So if any sort of anything happens, you also have a really good view. And behind you is the club level, which is where all the suites go in, and it's carpeted, it's air conditioned, and there are less of the people there. So you have to wait in line less. There are bars to bathrooms right at the top of the stairs. Men and women's bathrooms at the top of the stairs, right where those seats are, and those are the clean bathrooms too.
And then, of
Not
course,
that all the bathrooms are clean, but you know what I'm saying,
of course,
guys.
of course. And then we will have 2 grand prizes. At the end of it, you get to select a unique summer staycation getaway, and we're giving you gas to get there and back. So we're
What?
we're really going to cover
Wow.
you on this. You can select Fort Atkinson Cottage on the lake, including a pontoon boat.
Pontoon boat.
Lake Geneva stay at Harbor Shores, Door County stay at the Ridges Inn and Suites. And everybody who enters, whether you win or not, daily, hourly, everybody's going to be in the grand prize drawing. And we play this at the 7 o'clock hour, 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m. Different word every hour of those hours, but you can enter every hour.
Yep.
And once you get your notification that you entered, if you click on that link, you can get another couple extra entries.
Little bonus.
All you have to do is check your voter registration.
And you just have to check it.
Yeah. I mean, we're not asking you to do anything. We're not telling you how to vote. We just want to make sure people are going to vote.
Yeah. Just make sure you're registered and something. I didn't know that I wasn't registered sometimes. Sometimes it expired. So, got to go and look and make sure that you are registered.
Especially if you've moved or
Mhm.
something else. So yeah, get a little extra entry in there. So here is the word for this hour.
Dun, dun, dun.
The word is lake.
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 L-A-K-E.
Like the last name of our program director, Catherine Lake.
Correct. Not
Lake.
not cake.
No, not cake.
Not fake.
Not fake.
Not Drake.
Not rake.
Not that either. The word is lake.
Not even Blake. It's Lake.
L-A-K-E. You have until noon today to text in the word for our Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest. We have this little unspoken competition going on with Todd Alba, my friend and colleague. And we're going on the road, by the way, next week.
Oh, you're going to have Shake and Bake by the lake?
We might.
All right.
We might. Yesterday, we beat him by 1 entry.
That was not a mistake.
So let's see if we can keep that up, my friends.
For goodness sake.
Text the word lake direct from the Civic Media app, and you're in the running for all of those great prizes. We had Jeff Mandel on right before the 11 o'clock news talking about Attorney General Josh Kaul in Wisconsin finally filing felony charges against Jim Trupis, Kenneth Chesbro, or the Cheese Man, as Maggie likes to call him, and Mike Roman, who is a campaign aide, all about the fake elector scheme. And as Jeff pointed out, this all started right here in Wisconsin. We were first.
Yeah, he made the argument that January 6th, the riot and insurrection would not have happened.
Yeah.
Had there not been fake electors in the first place, and the scheme was concocted here. So congratulations, Wisconsin.
We were first.
Yay.
Andrew from Maine texting in, are we aware of any state Democratic conference preparing alternate slates of electors just in case Biden loses?
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. I would not encourage it. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but from what I understand,
It's illegal.
it is illegal.
It's illegal. Jack from Merrimack also texting in, a big problem, in my opinion. Far too many people have no idea how our justice system works since we've eliminated all high school civics courses. The issue is not that the fraudulent electors didn't have access to legal advice, and it's definitely not a weaponization of the justice system. Anyone who believes those things is simply ignorant of the facts. It's that apparently legal advice was given to do something unlawful. Yes, And the 10 electoral fraudsters then did the illegal act of attempting to overturn an election that was already judged honest and legal.
Now,
Those who believe it's about anything else need to listen to the facts, and especially don't listen to people obviously involved in committing the illegal act.
true.
Yes.
That's
Very
good.
well said.
Very well said.
Very well
Jack.
said, Jack.
And in addition to civics, just basic scientific method just would lead you to conclude perhaps I would need to have any sort of conclusive evidence that something was directly stolen this way in order to move forward with something this desperate to go and save the election.
Right.
But there was none. I asked people when the Dropbox issues were happening, when the illegal voting in the drop boxes, the drop boxes, which just is a locked box where you put your ballot in.
And I used it in 2020 because we were in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah, and I asked several people to explain to me in any way, logical or otherwise,
Make something up.
tell me that fairies come in and change everybody's votes. Tell me that somebody's vote was changed some way, shape, or form. Tell me where the fraud happened, because it can't just be, I feel it. But they're moving on because they feel it.
But there's complete justification for that, Brian Kelly.
Oh,
Going with your feelings over facts. Just listen to House Speaker Mike Johnson talking about all of the hundreds, apparently, of millions of illegal people who are voting in our elections.
We all know intuitively that a lot of illegals are voting in federal elections, but it's not been something that is easily provable. We don't have that number.
yeah,
We know it's happening. I feel it's happening.
but they don't have any number.
But we can't prove it.
They don't
But
have
we-
any number of that.
But we feel it, Brian.
Intuitively,
Yes.
there's no evidence of it. I don't understand that. I don't understand doing something as drastic as changing the votes of 3.4 million people because I feel
I
like
feel
it
it.
was taken. You can't just say, I feel like all these people illegally voted without even a shred of evidence. In fact, illegal voting that happened here in Wisconsin, people on the right wanted to go and prove how horrible absentee, voting was, and they signed up other people to receive absentee ballots and send it to their house, and they tried to vote. But you know how we know that? Because the system caught them.
Because they got caught.
They got caught doing it. They tried to show that look, I can break the law and no one gets, but they got caught in the middle of doing it. They proved the point that our elections are secure by trying to prove that it wasn't. Like, I don't understand how people continue to go and say it was stolen or it was fraudulent or people voted illegally when time after time. In fact, Wisconsin has been known historically as one of the most secure places. Do you know why? Because we have a decentralized system, which means that you have to coordinate so many different people to change the outcomes of this election.
Oh,
you can't
yes.
it's so decentralized, you can't actually it's almost harder to get the votes in because of that.
But that's where you need something magical to happen, like fairies,
Yes.
in order to actually pull this off.
Yes.
Angie from Monroe is on the line. Good morning, Angie. Thank you so much for joining us. What did you want to say about this?
I just want to say you can check your vote anytime on vote.com and see what you voted. It's all there. It's listed and how you voted. Every time you look into your history, it tells you what you voted and every election that you voted in. So how can they say they don't know what they voted and how what didn't? Oh, I can't even talk.
I know.
Okay.
It's amazing, Angie. The information is at your fingertips to see how secure your vote is. And just because you don't want to believe it or you don't like the outcome of it,
Nah.
You know what I did when Trump won? I didn't like it. I had hoped that there was maybe some sort of OG last second type of, Florida chicanery.
Right.
But again, it didn't. And I, like Tammy Baldwin, put on my big boy pants and I said, oh, what does this president want to do? Okay, let's get this done. And Tammy actually got more things done and passed while Trump was president than the guy who's pro-Trump in Ron Johnson, because Ron Johnson did nothing besides the tax
We
situation.
and thank you so much for calling, Angie, and we certainly appreciate your frustration. I think there are a lot of people
I
who are
don't get it.
equally frustrated by all of this. Just makes you shake your head.
Yeah. I just want it to make sense, Jane. I just want it to make sense.
And again, Andrew from Maine, not only do they intuitively know votes are being cast illegally, they intuitively know those ballots are being cast only for the Democratic presidential candidate, none of the others. Well,
yeah.
you're absolutely right, Andrew, and I've said that from the very beginning. How can you say the election was fraudulent and yet accept your election when
Yeah.
you're on the same ballot?
Yes.
That seems
Same
like a
ballot.
big disconnect to me.
Again, it's the same. You need to have some sort of scientific method. Otherwise, you're going to have a group of people, and I'm quoting Metalocalypse here. Bleach is made of water.
Okay.
We are mostly made of water.
Uh-huh.
Therefore, we are bleach.
Well, there you go.
So, I mean, I don't understand because it doesn't make sense. How can you say Biden won illegally, but all the votes that were cast illegally were for Biden and not for the same people who are on the same ballot? Did you know that in the Walker, when Walker was ultimately defeated by Evers, there were like 150,000 people who voted Walker, Tammy Baldwin.
Yeah.
That's an anomaly. That's weird, but people do that.
Well, and again, if there was this big conspiracy to make sure that Trump lost, why wouldn't they have done this to other down ballot Republican candidates and done the same thing to make sure that they lost? It just,
or like, just let a certain amount of Republicans win or whatever.
There's no logic here.
Make it make sense.
Mark, I see you on the line. We will return and keep this conversation going. You can always join us. And don't forget, the word to text in right now is Lake, Lake. So you can get entered into our wonderful Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
I'm going to eat a steak.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Brian Kelly in for Greg Bach, and Sweet Cal B on the board. You can always join us. You can call or text, and you can leave a comment on the live stream. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter, you still have until noon today to text the word Lake.
Lake.
Lake. Lake via the Civic Media app so you can get entered into our great Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest. You win some great prizes.
Click that link. Check your voter registration.
Yeah.
And you get extra.
A bonus entry.
Ding, ding, ding.
Mark from Prairie du Sac has been waiting very patiently. Good morning, Mark. We were talking about fake electors and just the ballot drop boxes and all of those things. What did you want to say about that? Mark, are you there? Have we got Mark?
It sounds like we do, but I feel like he may have walked away for a moment. That's all right.
That's all right. Well, we'll just pot him down for a moment.
That's okay.
If you want to call back, you can absolutely call back at 855-752-4842, 855-75 Civic. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. But again, if you want to enter the statewide text to win contest, you have to text the word LAKE, L-A-K-E, from the Civic Media app.
Mhm.
We're going to talk about this briefly. There's still more information to come out about this because I'm not seeing a lot of details. But apparently, there was a kerfuffle at the Baraboo High School graduation ceremony on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this footage yesterday, showed up on my Twitter feed. So this young woman gets her diploma, and she's going down the line to shake the hands of, I'm assuming, all the school administrators.
Mm-hmm. Like you do at a graduation
Like you-
ceremony.
yeah, like
Literally
you-
every one of them that has ever
does
existed.
this.
That's
There's
what
like
it is.
there's like 5 people that she's going to go
It's
shake their hands.
the moment you're getting your fake diploma, and you'll get it later.
Turns out that while the school superintendent there in Baraboo is black,
Mhm.
is a black man. And a report from WMTV in Madison says a parent charged onto the stage at the Baraboo High School graduation ceremony Friday, running onto the stage before a school resource officer and 2 off-duty officers stepped in. He was then arrested for disorderly conduct.
He moved the superintendent out of the way
He pushed him out of the way.
so that his daughter wouldn't shake his hand.
That's kind of what it looks like.
Now, I'm trying to make it make sense. The initial reporting that I've seen didn't really give any motive,
Doesn't, yeah, right.
Doesn't
It
really
doesn't,
say
it doesn't say
why.
a lot.
but like, what would it take for you to go and do that for your daughter? What would it take for you to go and step in and say, I don't want this man shaking the hand of my daughter? Like, is the guy an avowed Nazi? Was he known for touching kids inappropriately?
You mean the superintendent?
The superintendent.
Yeah.
Like, these are the things that might warrant that type of behavior. I'm lost as to what it might be, and I'm completely conjecturing because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's I don't think he's an avowed Nazi, and I'm pretty sure that the reporting of sexual misconduct would be leading this if that's the case.
If that were the case,
So,
absolutely.
I'm left to wonder what is so horrible that this guy can't shake his daughter's hand.
He was escorted out of the building after the incident. The school board president, along with board members and the high school principal, also shared the stage with the superintendent, but the man did not interact with any of them, but only confronted Briggs, the superintendent, who again is a black man. I believe he was charged with disorderly conduct. This story probably isn't going away. We'll see if there's much more that comes out about this. But WISC News is reporting that he was caught saying some things.
Oh, so from what I understand about Baraboo is that their public statement will be,
It's been handled.
but there's going to be a lot of. I know some people that maybe know some things in Baraboo. We'll go talk to those folks and see what actually happens. But I have to know more before I really get involved.
Yeah. Mark from Prairie du Sac is back. Thank you for calling back, Mark. What did you want to say? We were talking about. Did you want to talk about the fake electors and the drop boxes? I assume.
Yeah, the whole fake electors in the Dropbox thing. Well, intuitively, I think that that for most of these Republican men, at least, they make the average cherub feel like John Holmes because they're so masculinity deprived or masculinity. They don't seem to understand that the truth is actually supposed to mean something. There's no evidence that illegals are voting, because why would you risk that? Because it's a serious felony if you get caught voting like that. And these guys just don't say they're feeding their base. They're feeding Donald Trump. They don't have the courage to stand up to Donald Trump. The average, that I would have no trouble telling Donald Trump I think he's a damn fool to his face, or his sons, or any of these damn Republicans that are pulling this crap. I mean, I called Ron Johnson's office to read him out, and I remained FCC compliant in my comments this time on him. He was condemning charging the fake electors, but this should have happened a long time ago. Ron Johnson's ass should be in jail right now for his role in the violation of the Constitution of the United States of America. 14.2 of the I haven't been ranting on it lately, but 14.2 of the Constitution says we the people, we the electorate, select the electors, not self-appointed guardians of fascism that these guys have become.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, Mark. Thank you so very much, as always.
I believe Mark is calling founding fathers. I think he's calling founding fathers. I'm invoking the founding fathers when I'm making my argument, and that's true. I mean, you can't take away, you can't disenfranchise people and expect to be without like actual reason, like real reasons with concrete evidence type of reasons. Do you know how awesome it is when you have truth on your side and you're fighting that way? Like, do you know how it's been? I've been doing this since 2016. Like 2017, really. February 2017 is when I got hired with the Devils. I have been doing this. Do you know how exhausting it is to write the word President Donald Trump out every day? You know this because you've been doing it for a couple of years now. It is, I'm in this fight and I'm still energized. Do you know why? Because I have truth on my side. Because I am not doing anything that is like, I'm not making up stuff. Do you know how hard it is to keep a lie going?
And keep the lies straight.
Keep it straight?
It's exhausting.
Oh my.
If you care about keeping the lies straight, I think there are some that just, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. And let's not forget, Ron Johnson is outraged because apparently conservative lawyers advising clients is illegal under Democratic tyranny. Yeah, only when they're trying to tell you to go ahead and break the law. That's kind of the problem.
Yeah, it's illegal to tell your client to break the law.
News is coming up next. And then I know this intuitively. Dr. Laura Hanks will be here for public service announcement. And don't forget to text the word via the Civic Media app, Lake. Text in the word Lake right now. You have until noon to be entered into our Scotty Summer Statewide Text to Win contest. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the vast, connected Civic Media Radio Network.
Monday, 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 must be fun day in the rich man's world. Monday, 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 always Sunday.
They'll like insert when like
in the rich man's world.
like they'll be like, oh my gosh, that's so bad, and be like, yeah, that was bad.
All the things I could do if I had a little Monday. It's a rich man's world.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And then
And
you can
so-
talk about your experience too.
Yeah.
Because,
Monday, 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 must be fun day in the rich man's world. Monday, 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 always Sunday in the rich man's world.
And I thought one of the factors that they felt
It's a rich man's world.
was like the biggest factor for them and feel like it did, which
that's
I
amazing.
thought was
Yeah,
kinda
I'm giving a history of transgender care in the fall.
oh nice.
So, yeah. And then what we're going to do for the prenatal care, we're going to do vaccine.
Yeah, we're going to talk about vaccines. So just routine vaccines, immunizations to avoid. So a lot of the live vaccines.
Yep.
And then talking about like special circumstances vaccines, the travel vaccines, rabies, like
And so,
If we
like,
can.
you know, to talk about how this is like new. We're not currently giving it until we're in RSV season.
Yeah.
The other thing. So people might ask us for it. We're like, at least here, we're not giving it right now, but we will again once RSV season is started.
yeah.
Let's see here. Some people watch the show, so we can also see. So this is like our private chat, and then these are comments from people that are watching. Yeah. It's mostly nice. Sometimes not. One of the last ones, I think they said something about. Oh, you might have listened to when they said that I was young, that I looked young or something, and I was like.
Tickle.
Take it. Yeah, right. Just remember that. It is a podcast. It's those things. It's just a way to get your voice out. Do something fun and different.
Yeah.
Tradition.
Also on topics that I actually like am invested in.
Right.
Talk
Yeah.
about, which is nice.
That's kind of how I feel about it. Oh, I forgot to put my little sign on the door. It's finally nice out. It's so gross yesterday.
Yeah, I had to pick up a friend from the airport in the like torrential downpour. And of course she was delayed, so I'm sitting there for like 40 minutes. Just chilling.
Madison Airport's the worst. It's
Yeah.
always delayed and I think we technically started 11:33.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Calvin Butenhoff coming to you live from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can join us. You can call through the Civic Media app. Also, we have our statewide Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest is going on. You have until noon to text the word via the Civic Media app. The word is Lake. Text the word Lake, Lake, on the Civic Media app, and you are entered to win. One person every hour that we play the contest picks up a Wisconsin Dell Summer Prize Pack. Every day, a pair of Milwaukee Brewers Club level seats. And there's going to be 2 grand prizes, 2 winners for the grand prize. You get to pick a summer staycation complete with gas. We're setting you up to get there and back, either in Fort Atkinson, Lake Geneva, Door County, and all entries, whether you win one of the daily prizes, you win an hourly prize, everybody is entered to win the grand prize. So make sure you text the word Lake, Lake, by noon today, and you will be entered to win all of those great prizes. You can enter once an hour if you respond to the link. That will ask you to just acknowledge that you are registered, to check to make sure that you're registered to vote, and you're going to get an extra entry. So that's pretty cool. She joins us every Wednesday at this time, provided there's not some medical crisis going on in her own home. Dr. Laura Hanks is joining us this morning, along with her medical student. Brittany is here. Good morning, ladies. Thank you for joining us. How you doing?
Morning.
Good morning. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Absolutely. We haven't talked much about that yet. Of course, it is Pride Month. And Dr. Hanks, you do a lot of work with people who are transitioning, correct?
Yep. Yep, I do. And it's great population. We have great patients here, and it's something that, really brings joy to our lives and something that Brittany's really interested in. So she was doing a little research this morning and had kind of the history of LGBTQ plus. If you guys, if we're open to kind of talking through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was
'Cause
a
Brittany,
history major, so I love this stuff.
well, and I think too, I think some people think there were never gay people until 1960.
Right.
And that just isn't accurate. It's just
No,
not.
no, no, and it's not. Yeah. So why don't you give us some of the things that you've been thinking about?
Yeah, so I tried to focus on sort of LGBTQ history as it relates to medicine and healthcare, since obviously that's quite relevant to us. And so we started to talk about how we first started describing LGBTQ people and individuals. And so back in the 1860s, there's a lawyer named Carl Ehrlichs who started describing sexual inversion. And that was sort of the first terminology that was used. And that sort of continued until like the World War II era, where we started seeing the emergence of Freud's work, where he described our modern definition of sexual orientation, where we think of attraction to one's own sex or the opposite sex. And that's kind of still what we use today. But at that time, particularly in the World War II time, there was a lot of focus on psych and psychology, psychiatry, and how we discuss sexuality in medicine. And it was more toward like people were thinking more towards treatment and cures than they were of giving healthcare to these individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be fixed. We have to fix you.
Right. Exactly.
Medicine doesn't always have a perfect history, unfortunately, but
Oftentimes.
that's why we're often changing and evolving.
Absolutely. And learning new things all the time. That's what science is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was talking earlier with Dr. Hanks about how in World War II, they started psychiatric screening for young men that were joining the military that included screening on sexual orientation. And at the time, there wasn't a whole lot done with that because they needed the bodies. And so they sort of accepted it. But once World War II was over, they started discharging anybody who identified as gay because they didn't want those men in the military.
Right.
And so we started getting these large communities formed in a lot of these port cities. And so we think about some of the major cities that celebrate like LGBTQ individuals and have a lot of pride associated events. And those are places like New York and Boston and a lot of the coastal cities.
Right.
And so that's thought to be where a lot of these communities started forming was after the war. And so when we talk about kind of the diagnostics of sort of sexual orientation, in the 1950s, we came out with the big psychiatric, essentially diagnostic textbook. It's called the DSM. And that started listing homosexuality as a sociopathic personality disturbance along the lines of substance abuse and other sexual disorders.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the DSM is something that is kind of used across all medicines in terms of like diagnosing and categorizing mental health disorders, and it is ever changing. So right now we're on DSM-5, and so this is like the original DSM, which obviously in DSM-5 it doesn't say this anymore.
But I think it's important to point that out. And if you're just joining us, Dr. Laura Hanks is here, as she is every Wednesday for Public Service Announcement. She's with medical student Brittany, and we're talking about the LGBTQ plus population. It is Pride Month, and I know Dr. Hanks and Brittany are very interested in people who are transitioning and just about that community. But when you talk about some of those early diagnoses in these DSMs, let's not forget that primarily male doctors used to say that women had depressed uteruses, right? I mean, yes, I can tell she's really down today.
Well, you know where the term hysteria came from, right? Like hysterectomy, hysteria. It was it Freud who coined it. It was just that the uterus was making you crazy, and it was so you were hysterical.
So give her a hysterectomy and then she's going to calm down.
Uh-huh.
Lovely. That's so lovely. So yes, again, I think it's important to understand that these DSMs do get updated and do change over the decades as we learn new things, as we learn more about more about everything. I did want to bring this up because I just saw this morning. LGBTQ plus Republicans of Colorado are very upset after the Colorado Republican Party sent out an email to commemorate Pride Month that says basically God hates pride and God hates flags because they don't like the rainbow flag. In your dealing with patients, how impactful is something like this that God hates you just because of who you are? God hates you.
Yeah. Well, just on the one part, I just want to make a comment about the flag. I mean, do they know about Sam Alito's, flags situation?
I think they're fine with that. Upside down flags are good. And the appeal to heaven, we love that one, just not the rainbow. That's a bad flag.
Okay. That makes sense, of course. No, I think what's really heartbreaking in our position is that we see a lot of patients who, come to us for help and have sometimes been ostracized by their family or told things like God hates you and you're not my child anymore because you're, have either you identify as a different gender than the sex that you were born, or you are attracted to someone that's the same sex as you. And it's really heartbreaking, but it puts us in a very unique position to be able to listen and empathize and maybe be this person's only resource to listen and be able to provide healthcare.
Right.
So it's something that is really kind of magical about our jobs, is to be there for these individuals, not only as like someone to listen, but also that can provide them the care that they need, just like anyone else. So,
and I think it's important to point out as well, and Dr. Hanks, we've talked about this before, but I don't think it can be said enough. 9-year-old girls are not walking into a doctor's office and saying, I'm a boy, I want top surgery next week. And the doctor says, yeah, great, let's do that. That isn't how it works.
Yeah. Now there is a very interesting population that's kind of, the umbrella term is intersex. So what Brittany gets to learn about in med school and what I learned about is just all the different situations where someone might have ambiguous genitalia or might have an XY chromosome, but because of other genetic abnormalities might look phenotypically like on the outside like a female. So those situations with those people that are under 18, it's a different conversation.
Right.
So we're when we're talking about surgery for gender affirmation outside of intersex individuals, then that is recommended to be after 18 years old.
But there's counseling involved. There's
100%.
many steps involved before ever getting to that point of having any kind of surgery.
Absolutely.
And it's not, and it also it doesn't happen over the course of 5 months or even a year, right?
Mm-hmm. No, it's a long process. And I think that it's just like anything with health. Anytime we go to the OR, we want to have counseled our patients and to understand the risks and benefits of surgery and making sure that they're a good candidate. And that can be in regards to their health. If you're an uncontrolled diabetic who carries extra weight, even that can not only affect the anesthesia when you're having surgery, but also affect wound healing. Those are all things that we talk about in the office that are very important to anyone that's undergoing surgery.
Andrew from Maine has a comment on the live stream. The process to transition is longer and more involved than the process for tubal ligation.
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. I think that, and in some aspects, for cisgender women to get a hysterectomy too, But I think that, you know, being appropriately counseled in both of those situations is hugely important.
And now we have seen some states who have completely banned all kinds of trans care for minors, and they're halting their treatments, you know, kind of in the middle of the process. What does that do to this patient?
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. Something that we're, you know, really worried about happening here in Wisconsin. And much like a lot of the abortion laws, it's then forcing patients to travel outside
Yep.
of the state. And some people don't have those resources. So it's really, you know, unfortunate. And we know that patients that identify as transgender, gender non-binary are have a much higher rate of suicide because of these social stigmatization. So if they're not able to get the care, I mean, it's literally life-saving care. It really is. And there is data to back that up. So people that say that it's not, that it's something that you can just take away because it makes you and your religious feelings uncomfortable is inappropriate.
We are going to keep our conversation going. Dr. Laura Hanks is here along with medical student Brittany for public service announcement. If you have a question, you can always call, you can text, and don't forget to text the word LAKE, LAKE, text the word LAKE by noon today via the Civic Media app so you can get entered in our Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest. We will return. I'm going to take my hysterical uterus and we'll be right back. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
I saw you there, just standing there. And I thought I was only dreaming, yeah. I kissed you then once again. You said you would come and dance with me. Dance with me across the sea. We can feel the motion of 1,000 dreams. Doctor, doctor, can't you see I'm burning, burning? Oh, doctor, doctor, it's not me.
Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio now in sunny downtown Waukesha. Don't forget, you have until noon, so you got about 9.5 minutes. You have until noon to text the word LAKE, LAKE, via the Civic Media app. It's our Scotty Summer statewide text to win contest. Every hour that we play it, someone picks up a Wisconsin Dell Summer prize pack. Every day, one person gets a pair of Milwaukee Brewers club level seats, and 2 people will get a grand prize. They get to pick their staycation, complete with gas to get there and back. Fort Atkinson, Lake Geneva, and Door County. And whether or not you win one of the hourly or daily prizes, everybody is entered in the grand prize, which is pretty cool. And you can enter once an hour, every hour, 7, 9, 11, 1, 3, 5, and 7 o'clock. There's going to be a different word every hour. The word this hour is lake, Lake. So make sure you text that in and you can be in the running for that. Dr. Laura Hanks joins us every Wednesday for public service announcement, joined by medical student Brittany this morning. And Dr. Hanks, you said Brittany's been working on some information about pregnancies and vaccines.
Yeah, switching gears a little bit from Pride Month, but
Right.
so she, at the end of rotations, in your 3rd and 4th year, you have to take an exam. And so I said, well, what do you want to study? So this is a good time, but it's a good topic, I think, for people to know about, because there's a lot of confusion about which vaccines are safe in pregnancy and which ones aren't. So take it
And
away.
they start pretty early, Brittany, right? I mean, pregnant women there are all kinds of vaccines that babies get.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot of vaccines that babies get after birth, and then a decent number of vaccines that pregnant patients get while they're pregnant, just to allow that passive immunity to the fetus so that fetus comes out protected. And so that's what we were kind of chatting about. And vaccines are a hot button issue, but of people who do want immunization during pregnancy, a lot of confusion about what they're able to get, what they can't get, special circumstances that may arise later on. And so started talking about kind of the routine prenatal vaccines that every pregnant patient should be getting. And so one of the big ones is the Tdap, also known as just the tetanus shot. And that is primarily for the P part, which is the pertussis, which can have a high morbidity and mortality for a young infant, usually within the first couple months of life. So they like to get that into patients, and some patients have had full immunization already during childhood. Some have not had it at all. So the guidelines sort of change depending on what you've had. If patients are fully immunized as during childhood, pregnancy usually between like 27 to like 36-ish weeks. If they're not immunized as a child, we do the full dose series. So we start in pregnancy and then may have to go postpartum.
Do you know why we give it at that point in pregnancy? Got to make sure she's learning.
She's being a teacher. She's being a teacher.
Yeah. So we give it at that point in pregnancy because it has the best passive immunization passing to the baby. So at right around where a patient is going from the 2nd trimester into the 3rd trimester, we know that it's going to cross the placenta. So I tell patients this is not as much for you as it is for the baby, because pertussis is whooping cough. So
I was just gonna ask that for people who don't know.
Yeah. So we get it. It's a cold. It's no fun, but babies get it and they can die from it. So it is very important for patients to get at that point if they're agreeable to it.
Well, and again, it's remarkable to me because I am the age that I am, where I got vaccinated for chicken. We got vaccines for measles and all of those things. It was always just what you did was completely normal. It wasn't controversial. And to see how things have changed, especially in the last decade, is kind of remarkable, considering that we have more medical knowledge now than we did before.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think one of the big ones that is a newer vaccine that has come out is the RSV vaccine.
Yes.
And this is a virus that is well known to parents because a lot of children end up getting RSV.
My kids have had it, obviously. We obviously had it already.
You guys got that covered, right?
Don't worry about it.
But unfortunately, the care for that is usually supportive. There's not it's a virus, you can't give antibiotics, so you just kind of have to wait it out. And it can be really tough, especially for parents, when children are having trouble breathing and they're watching them just really struggle. So we do have the RSV vaccine now that we recommend to patients. We're not currently giving it because you have to wait for RSV season to come about, which is kind of that general fall, winter, early spring. But we're able to offer that, and it protects against, like I said, the RSV. Usually kids will get like bronchiolitis, which is kind of a bronchial condition, and again makes it hard to breathe. They end up struggling. It's awful to see.
It's got to be terrible. Oh my God, to see your
It's
kids
horrible.
struggling to breathe
It's
when they're just babies and infants. That's got to be horrible. And my husband and I got the RSV for the first time this year. And
It
is
was
this
bad.
going? Yeah, is this going to be annual like a flu shot, Dr.
Mhm.
Hicks?
Yep.
The RSV will just be part of your annual thing.
Yep. And patients can have the choice of getting it in pregnancy or to have the baby get it afterwards. So when do we give it in pregnancy?
We give it, so it's based on when the due date is.
Mhm.
So you want to give it at 32 to 36 weeks, but you want to make sure that like the due date falls within the RSV season.
Mhm. Yeah.
To get
So it's a
there.
little confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, this is obviously something you have to talk to about with your doctor about.
Exactly. So we're doing it for passive immune, so the babies get it. So why are we giving it at 32 weeks and not 28 weeks, like we just said for Tdap?
That's a great question.
So the initial studies that came out about the RSV vaccine showed that there was a slight non-statistical significant increase in preterm birth in patients that got the RSV vaccine from 28 weeks to 32 weeks. So when I say like non-statistical, that means that more studies needed.
Sure.
So they're not sure if it was related to or not, but because there was this increase, we are recommending patients wait until 32 weeks. I think there will be more data to support us giving it sooner at some point, maybe not this year, in the next year or so, but for now, the recommendation is 32 to 36.
Dr. Laura Hanks joins us every Wednesday from 11:30 until 12 for public service announcement. Today, she was joined by medical student Brittany. Best of luck, Brittany. You got a good teacher sitting there right next to you.
Thank you.
We'll
Thanks,
see you next
Jane.
week, Dr. Laura. Thank you, Calvin. You have had a long, long day. He's been on the board since 6 o'clock this morning. Thank you so much, Calvin, and to all of our engineers. Without you, nothing works. Thank you, Brian Kelly, and thank you most of all to you for calling and texting and listening. It means the world. I hope you find some joy today and you get the chance to share it. News is next on the Civic Media Radio Network.